Bro, you are not your thoughts. You're not any thought that comes up in your brain. It's not you. You can't identify with every single thought. I used to be like this, where every single time I had a thought, positive or negative, I would just identify with it. And I didn't realize that you genuinely can't create your own thoughts. So every time I would have a negative thought, I would always fall into the trap of believing it and then having an emotion around that belief and then taking an action step because of the belief that I had in that thought, right? And the emotions that it triggered, because emotions trigger action. That's what most people act because of the emotions that they feel based on the belief of that thought, whether it is real or not. And this is very deep, because if you can understand this, you'll be able to actually change your life, and you'll be able to start to imagine and start to visualize things correctly and start to actually shape your life the way that you need it to be shaped. You'll be moving and operating in a way that fits the identity that you want, because that's what most people don't realize. Thoughts are simply invitations for identification. And this is interesting to me. That's why I wanted to make this video, because I was talking with a client yesterday, right? We had a deep conversation because he was struggling. He's like, man, I keep self-sabotaging. There's a lot of things that come up. I have these negative thoughts, like I'm worthless, I'm this and I'm that. And like, it throws me off, and it throws me off of my goals. And I'm like, of course it does, because you actually believe that you create your own thoughts. And I'm sure you're watching this right now and you've actually believed that you created your own thoughts. You believe that your thoughts are you. You believe that every single thought that you have was created by yourself. And I'm here to tell you it's not. That's not true. You don't create thoughts, you receive thoughts. And those thoughts can come from external environments. So maybe past traumas that you've had, past situations that you've been through, positive or negative. All of those things can trigger these thoughts that enter your mental field, and they want you to accept them. They want you to identify with them, because once you identify with the thought, you embody the thought. And that embodiment can be for the rest of your life. It can be for a period of time, but you have to be really, really selective and controlling of your thoughts. I told him this. I'm like, look, you don't create your own thoughts, you receive them. So every single thought, you have to be an observer of your thoughts. You can't be an embodiment of your thoughts, especially not now, because there are so many identity psyops that are out there. Mainstream media, all of the things that you watch on the internet, all of the bad news, you go on the news and it's all bad. It's all there to psyop your identity. Psyop means psychological operation. Because if they can get you to change your identity to someone who is worthless, or to someone who's a slave, or to someone who can't actually like control their life, now they control you, because you don't know who you truly are. So the biggest thing you have to understand, and this is where he really got the light bulb switch. I was like, look, your thoughts, all of the stuff that you think about every day, those are all invitations. Those are all things that you can select, and you can choose whichever one makes sense for your identity, for your goals. And I walked him through I created this. It's a thought matrix, right? So the thought matrix goes as such. So you have a thought that essentially enters your mental field. It becomes an invitation for identification, which means now you either choose to believe that thought or you choose to reject that thought. Two options that you have whenever a thought comes up. And then from there, you have an emotion based on the belief. So because you believed it was true, now it can dictate what emotion you drive based on that belief. So now you start to actually have, maybe it's angry. You have anger. Sometimes you have pain. Sometimes you have resentment. And if it's a positive thought, you have empowerment. You have that. You feel like you're in control. You feel happy. You feel sad. Whatever that looks like, all those emotions come from the belief in that thought being true or not. And then after you have the emotion, then you have the action. And the action is what you do based on that emotion that you've had. So I'll give you a good example. If you have a thought that says, I'm worthless, right? That thought, you can either believe that it's true or not. And if you accept that that thought is true, then you move into emotion. So the emotion can literally feel like you're powerless. Emotion is just a feeling, right? You feel like you're powerless. But the thing is, all of these emotions carry energy. And you move based on that energy. So if you start to have the emotion that you're powerless and that you're helpless and that you can't do anything, you're sad, you're depressed, maybe potentially, your actions are going to align with that emotion. So now you're going to skip all of the things that you should be doing. You should be going to the gym. You're not going to go to the gym because you feel worthless. Going to the gym literally means that you feel worthy and you feel like you need to build yourself up. You need to have that physical fortitude. So you're going to take care of yourself. But if you feel worthless, if you have the emotion of sadness, if you have the emotion of depression, if you have all these different things, you're not going to take the actions to become the best version of yourself, whatever that identity is for you. It's all an identity play. Because your identity is a sum of your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, your habits, all of that, the actions that you take, that's all a combination of what your identity is. So the more that you take on these negative thoughts, the more that you allow for them to enter your field and you accept them, and by default, you've probably been accepting every thought because you identify with every thought because you believe it's you. But it's not you. If you've ever done meditation, and I urge you guys to do this, get into a dark room for 30 minutes, turn the lights off, close your eyes, and just observe your thoughts. And you'll start to realize that it's not you. It's simply just thoughts from whatever past experiences that you've had that come up, that ask you for invitation into your mind so that they can sit. And your mind is like a garden. So you basically invite them to plant seeds in your mind, and they bloom into weeds. And now your mind is crowded. You have brain fog. You have all these things, and your reality just distorts, and you can't seem to get anything done. It's the same with money. I know a lot of people always ask, Martel, how do I make money? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I can never give them a direct path because everyone's mind is different and everyone's path is different. But what is true is if you identify with the end result, with the person that you need to become to get the end result in whatever, because every business model works. Every business model works. But what doesn't work is probably you, which means your identity's fucked up. So if every business model works and it's really you, you have to figure out how you work so that you can make that business model work. You can go on YouTube and find any business model for free and apply those steps, and they give you free advice. It's all there. But the reason why all of this free stuff doesn't work for you is because you don't necessarily know yourself yet. You haven't necessarily found the identity that makes the most sense with your goals. Let's say, for example, everyone wants to hit 10K a month. Are you the person who even deserves to hit 10K a month? Are you the man who actually deserves to hit 10K a month? What are your thoughts saying to you when you want to be the man that hits 10K a month? Those self-sabotaging thoughts, what are they? They're basically thoughts that don't align with what it is that you want. So if you genuinely believe that you're worth $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month based on your situation, that thought will come in, right? I'm only worth $3,000 a month, when you really want to make 10. And then you either believe it. Do you believe it? Let's say you do, right? Yes. And then we go to the next point, emotion. Now that gives you a depressive feeling, or it gives you a feeling of hopelessness, an emotion of hopelessness, because you believe that that's true. And the actions that you take will end up self-sabotaging who you want to be. So you'll never hit that goal. You'll see every single time that you even go past 3,000, let's say you go to 5,000, you hit 5,000, you're going to go right back down to 3. You're going to do something to go right back down to 3. Because you always fall to the level of what you identify as, of who you identify as. But if you start to identify as a $10,000 a month person and you start to change, and the key here is all of the negative thoughts, you flip it into positive thoughts. So when it says I'm only worth $3,000 a month, the reverse of that is I'm worth $3,000 a month now, but I'm actually worth $10,000. And the $7,000 comes from the lack of information and the lack of action steps that I should take to get to that goal. And then you start to think, what are some of the action steps I need to take? You need to start questioning your own thoughts. It's called meta thinking. You question your own thoughts. Every thought that you have, you question it. You ask it why. And you'll find that your thoughts start to get exhausted because you're actually questioning them now. You're not just inviting them in. You're analyzing them. And the negative thoughts, the weak thoughts will go away because they're not strong enough to penetrate the field. And you have to think of your mind as a field. And you can either allow negative or positive thoughts to come into that field and get in there and blossom the way that they need to blossom. But it'll only work if you are diligently analyzing your thoughts and you're observing your thoughts. You're fighting the negative thoughts every single minute of the day. It's violent mental warfare. It's very, very violent and it's exhausting. But that's what it takes to become the person that you want to be. That's why a lot of these guys, they become greater. And this shift can happen immediately. You can become the person that you want to be now if you just write it down. If you understand what that identity looks like, what are the thoughts? What are some thoughts that it has? That way, when you see those thoughts, when you can write down certain thoughts, you can, and again, you're not making the thoughts. You're just basically pulling them from thoughts that are already trying to be invited into your mind. Because like I mentioned before, you are not your thoughts. You're simply a receiver and an observer of what the different thoughts are. So the minute that you do that, everything will start to change. You'll start walking like the person. You'll start to talk like that person. You'll start to do the actions that person would do that inevitably gets them the goal, because all goals is just a culmination of action steps. And to even achieve those action steps, you have to have certain thoughts that then trigger beliefs, that then trigger emotions, that then drive you to the actions. A man with no emotions can't act. If you can't embody your emotions, you can't act. I'm not saying that you are your emotions, but your emotions are part of the identity that you want to have. So you have to be able to embody all of this thought matrix to be able to shift your identity and have massive changes in your life. There's people, they can quantum leap in their life from like $2,000 a month to $100,000 a month simply because they changed their thought patterns and they changed their identity quickly. You can become the person now. You don't have to. Most people, what they do is they mistake it to where they end up becoming, they end up wanting to become the person, but they never take the action steps. They never analyze the thoughts that they need to accept, and they never analyze the beliefs that they actually have based on these thoughts. They never analyze the emotions that this thought triggers. They never analyze the actions that they're going to take to be able to achieve that, the habits that they take, and they always get stuck as the same person, always wishing to be the best version of themselves. That's bullshit, bro. It's just not true. It's a psyop. Because anybody can become who they want to be. That's why the media does what it does. That's why they're changing the way that you think. They're changing your identity. Most of us, we've forgotten who we truly are. If I asked you, who are you? You may not give me a good answer. You may not even know what that answer is because you forgot. You forgot because you let all these negative thoughts cloud your mind, and now you can't even get to the person that you want to be. And now you're perpetually stuck. You're perpetually in a cycle. You can't get in shape because every single time you want to get in shape, the identity that you have now, which basically is an identification of the thoughts that you have, goes against the end goal that you want. Because you don't even know what that is, who that person is that is getting the things that you want. The difference between you and me right now is that I have a different identity than you do. If you embody an identity similar to mine, you may achieve similar results, probably faster. Because it took me a while to shape my identity. It took me a while to like flesh out all of the negative thoughts and all of they're just toxins in your brain. And most people don't understand that, and they keep falling from that, right? They never question all of these fucking thoughts that run through their head. They never say, where did this thought come from, right? They never say, does it serve my future? Does it serve what I'm looking for? They never say, does it create or does it destroy, right? Does it create positivity in my life? Does it create the results that I need, or does it destroy it? And they never ask these questions. These thoughts just seep in. And when these thoughts seep in, you start to get negative results. Then you get frustrated. But once you understand the thought simulation, once you understand this thought, belief, emotion, action, which then creates your reality, you will start to change. You'll start to get in the best shape of your life. You'll start to make as much money as you can. You'll start to attract better quality women. Because again, it goes back to what you identify as. If you identify yourself as a hoe, as somebody who's just going around, fucking around with everybody else, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to attract that. Your reality is going to look like that. Those are the types of women that you're going to find in your life. Because that's the frequency that you move on. And a lot of y'all don't understand that. But freedom, you have to have mental freedom. You have to. And it's not about just silencing your mind. It's about dictating what comes in and what comes out. That's it. That's the secret, right? And you're not your mind. You're a controller of your mind. So you have to understand this and be very, very clear and really embody this, because the minute that you can do it, I'm telling you, the minute that you actually take these action steps, you sit in a room alone, you start to analyze your thoughts, you start to meditate, you start to think about your own thoughts, you start to interrogate them. That's the minute that everything changes in your life and you see quantum leaps. And all quantum leaps are, it's just shifting from where you are to where you want to be at a fast pace. That's what it takes. So I hope this message rang true to you and it solved a lot of the problems that you have, because I'm telling you right now, if you can master identity alchemy and you can shift your identity for whatever it is that you want at whatever period of time, you become unstoppable, you become undeniable, you become somebody that people just don't understand how you're getting results left and right. They don't understand how you're making as much money as you're making. They don't understand how you're in the best shape of your life, because most people are stuck in this negative thought matrix, this negative thought simulation, and they can't get out. Because your mind is very powerful. And if you can overpower your mind, you can overpower anything in this world. I'm not saying this shit as some feel-good motivational bullshit. I'm saying this as real talk. Your mind will literally either destroy you or it will build you up to be the greatest version of yourself that you've ever fucking seen. I hope this was valuable for you. I have some links in the description if you're interested in learning more about this. I talk about this in Multidimensional Academy. It's basically my private brotherhood that I have of guys who are basically trying to thrive and trying to become the best version of themselves in all dimensions, physically, mentally, spiritually, all of it, right? Financially, all of it. But it all stems, and I told the guys this morning, it all stems from your thoughts. It all stems from your identity. And your identity will shape your reality. So you have to be able to change that as soon as humanly possible. All right, and if you want, my free Telegram link will be in the description too. I talk about a lot of this stuff in there as well. I don't go as in depth as I do with Multidimensional Academy, but I do that, right? And I also do some one-on-one coaching as well when it comes to physical alchemy and also just identity shifting, right? Because they both come together. They both help. When you can build your physique, you can change your identity a lot faster because you're actually physically becoming a different person. We live in a physical realm right now, so you have to be able to master it. You have to be able to manipulate the physical realm, and the best way to do that is to manipulate yourself, your actual physical frame. Manipulate what your genetic code is so that you can become the best version of yourself. That's the first layer. That's the first start. So I do stuff like that as well. So I appreciate you, and I hope this video was valuable. Share this with a friend who needs it, because this is powerful. Nobody's talking about this in the space that we're in now. You can call it self-improvement. You can call it whatever. I call it transformation. In the transformation space, nobody's talking about this. And it's extremely powerful. So I appreciate you, bro. And I know you're going to win. I know you're going to make it. You have to take these steps and you have to do it. You can't just watch this video, click off, and forget about it. You got to actually do it, because it changed my life. It allowed for me to do things that I never even thought I could ever do. So I appreciate you, and I'll catch you on the next video.